What's up, everyone? My name is Dylan Walker with Yahoo Esports. I'm here with Ryan, the video game attorney. Was you always esports?
I was not always esports. When I started, we were doing video game law with the game developers. I was a big Redditor, which I know is a little embarrassing in some parts of the esports culture, but it's the truth. Candy Crush was trying to trademark the word candy in Saga. I got involved with stopping that and really just rolled with it in the video game space. I saw a lot of companies were being taken advantage of, and I wanted to help that out and also grow my own business, and I was able to do both. And now I'm doing very similar things in esports where we see a lot of, just like game developers were taken advantage of by publishers, we see a lot of players taken advantage of by teams.
So you've shifted the role to only representing players now, is that correct?
Right, so as far as I know, we're the only firm that only represents players. We don't work with teams, we don't work with leagues or organizations. The main reason is conflict of interest, so if a player goes to another team, we can still represent them. We don't work with any teams where we'd have to pull away. But the real reason is players have a lot of concerns that they don't even know, that most attorneys don't even realize. And by working with only them, we become kind of masters of dealing with those issues and knowing what clauses to push back on and what to kind of let go.
So what would you say would be like some of the pitfalls for a professional gamer in the legal sense?
Sure. So just like you don't know, the players don't know. And the scariest thing here is I would say a good 50% of players have never talked to an attorney. I hear things all the time that, oh, it's rude if I bring an attorney to a negotiation. It's not rude. It's ridiculous that you don't bring one. You're signing a contract, and that contract is a first offer. We can always almost double your salary and do all these other things, but it's not even about the numbers. It's about you signing away your professional career for a length of time with a non-compete clause that may or may not even hold up. I've seen 6-year contracts for $500 a month. It's insanity. And that's not even the worst I've seen. I mean, there's some teams out there that are truly terrible. Now, to be fair, there's a lot of teams that are great. Echo Fox, for example, really came in and tried to do things really the right way. There's an attorney, Bryce Bloom, who works with mostly teams who, whenever I know he's across the table, and he works with a lot of the LCS teams and a lot of the teams throughout all esports, I know those contracts are going to be a lot more fair. Those players are going to not be trapped in a criminal organization. But he's not with every team, and there's a lot of teams that are basically, in my opinion, criminal organizations.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, there are lots of players that sign bad contracts and they just don't have a second opinion on this stuff. I used to manage a pro team before, and I feel like one of the biggest issues is that if they run into a break-in contract, that they don't really have the means to get what they're owed or take any kind of recourse.
Yeah, so again, not to be a commercial, but I think a big reason we click with a lot of the players and a big reason a lot of the players trust us is if they're in one of these 6-year, $500 a month contracts, we're not going to charge them $1. We can get them out of that without blinking an eye. They think they're trapped. They think they're stuck in this terrible situation for years and years, or whatever it is. They think they're stuck. They're not stuck. We can always get them out 99 times out of 100 anyway. And if they're making under, $35K a year, we're not going to charge them $1. It's easy to do. We're happy to do it. And we're not saints here. There's other attorneys that I'm sure would do similar, but there's also now, when you get out of that, really low level of pay, you get to the bigger sports, the bigger LCS teams or the bigger teams in other sports, you see very similar problems. And those players can afford an attorney, they can afford an accountant, and they should really be speaking to both. They have to take their brand seriously, they have to take their career seriously, because if they're not, that's how they get trapped in these contracts where they're not earning what they should, they're in non-compete clauses that are ridiculous, and they are just being taken advantage of every which way.
So besides the non-compete clause, is there anything specifically that you might be able to tell us to look out for next time you're signing a contract?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen arbitrary fine clauses. Basically, the team can fine you if you die too much in a match, and we're going to take that out of your monthly salary. Yeah, there's insane clauses in some of these contracts. And again, this isn't every team. A lot of the teams do things right, but there's still a lot left that Riot doesn't do anything about, that Blizzard doesn't do anything about, that are still treating these players like scum, and really the team is scum. And they're teams that are in the upper echelons. It's not, these teams with players you never heard of. It's bigger teams. But they win, so the players stay there, or the players feel comfortable there, so they stay, when they could be doing infinitely better pay-wise. In terms of a specific clause in other capacities, it really is an endless array of things. The way they do these contracts, some of these teams, it's hard to even pinpoint what the biggest problem would be, because when we get one, 90% of it is going back with red lines. And that said, I've never ever lost a deal because of my red lines or my changing clauses. These people understand, the team understands how much money's here. They want this player. It's not like you can easily replace a player. If you have somebody, that's who you want. You might have an alternative, but you want the first guy you're making an offer to. So when we go back with these changes, we're not jerks about it. We don't call them criminals as we're doing it, and we keep things amicable. I have a very good relationship with most of these owners, and we're able to get the player much better protected without being rude like they're worried about, or blowing the deals like they're worried about. We've literally never let that happen.
I get the feeling that this is more like almost a Band-Aid solution. I feel like in the long run, there's got to be something in place, because no matter what, these amateur teams that are becoming pro are just going to get preyed on by some of these criminal organizations, as you call them. Is there do you think that there's a call for a regulation, like a body to oversee this stuff, or there's a mandatory class someone has to take? I mean, where does it start?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people trying a lot of different things. So there's different leagues coming out with some of the bigger leagues right now that are trying to set up some kind of structure where the players might be also having contracts negotiated with the league. But if you're alluding to something like a union or something like a collective bargaining agreement between the players and the different leagues, that I don't see happening anytime soon, because these players are still afraid to just talk to an attorney in the first place. And if they won't have their own contract looked at, I can't imagine they're going to negotiate as a group. So I really, we offer pro bono services to players sometimes, saying, you're in a terrible situation, we'll get you out of it. It's so easy. And they're like, no, I really don't want to cause bad blood in the industry. I'm afraid that everyone's going to hate me. And they just stay in a terrible situation where they're miserable, ruining their career because they don't want to do anything. So until that attitude changes, we're a decade away from a union or anything close to it. Who should be coming in here, and I don't mind saying it, is Blizzard and Riot and people like that, Valve also. They really need to come in and say, here's the minimum contract standards that need to be in every contract. Riot has a little form at the end of most contracts, but they're the only ones. And Valve and Blizzard are making too much money here to let this go. I mean, if you saw some of these contracts as not an attorney, you would know this isn't okay. And these are teams that are competing at the international, that are competing at Worlds, and it needs to stop, and they need to be the ones to come in and have some kind of order here.
Well, I want to thank you for talking to me. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did. Have a good time in DreamHack. For everyone else, this is Yahoo Esports.